Creedence Clearwater Revival, the band of ingenious songwriting, the guys of southern rock with their swampy guitar rhythms, catchy bluesy leads, and rolling, smooth bass lines. They sure were destined to be one of the greatest rock and roll bands in history. Formerly known as the Gollywogs, back in the early 60s, Tom Fogarty, lead vocalist, his brother John Fogarty, guitar vocals, Doug Clifford, bass player, and Sue Cook, drummer, formed their high school band and played at small live gigs. They signed their first record deal with Fantasy Records in 1964 as the Gollywogs. In 1967, John and Doug had enlisted into the Army Reserve and released that same year. With John's release that year receiving a letter from the Army, he was inspired to write one of his well-known songs, Proud Mary. And would be recorded in his second album, Bayou Country. That same year, in '67, the band agreed to change their name to Creedence Clearwater Revival, upon their producer's request, with Tom stepping down from lead vocals and his brother John stepping up to the plate. The whole chemistry of the band would prove stronger. Their first album, recorded in 1968, Creedence Clearwater Revival, with their cover single Susie Q hitting top 40 charts, sitting at number 11, and I Put a Spell on You was floating at number 56. They toured live gigs all over America, and John was writing songs and lining them up for his next albums that would follow soon after. In January 1969, they released their second album, Bayou Country, and the song Born on a Bayou would hit number 2 on the charts. With their 9-minute song they wrote, Keep On Chuggalin', played only with one chord, would be the song of choice to end a live show. Bad Moon Rising and Lodi would soon follow and storm the radio stations and hitting that peak of their success to a new level. That same year in August, they released their third album, Green River, and Willie and the Poor Boys in November. Proud Mary was one of their songs that had become one of the biggest cover songs in America. From Bob Dylan to Ike and Tina, Proud Mary was topping charts everywhere and pretty much became the most recognizable song by any radio station around the world. Creedence were topping the charts like crazy with Fortunate Son, Midnight Special, Down on the Corner, and their songs from their previous albums were still floating around on the top 100 charts. It was definitely a good moon rising for the boys from the South. Woodstock would be one of their greatest live shows to be a part of in 1969. Bob Dylan, Grateful Dead, Jimi Hendrix, and many other bands that took part of the era that shaped the history of music inspired musicians till this day. It was said that Grateful Dead had played way past their set, and by the time Creedence started their set, most of the crowd was sleeping. Yes, Woodstock had its reasons. We all know by now, and besides, if any band could put a crowd to sleep, it would be a good thing rather than creating a riot. Nevertheless, Creedence Clearwater Revival, also known as CCR, were topping the charts all over America, and touring was becoming more and more strenuous to lead man John Fogarty and the other band members. Fogarty doing most of the writing and producing, it was starting to put a strain on the band. Long as I Can See the Light was Fogarty's song. He had written and was clearly about the downfalls of a band falling apart and getting back on your feet and moving on. However, Tom, Doug, and Stu figured John was taking all the credit for the band. They were clearly not in the same boat, and ironically, the song, Long as I Can See the Light, shot straight up to number 1 on the Billboard charts. With the foreshadowing of a band breaking up hovering over their shoulders, the recording and touring schedules were taking a toll on the group. Their final album, Pendulum, was in the works in 1970, and even then Tom had quit a few times during the recording because of the disagreements with his brother. However, songs from their final album, Have You Ever Seen the Rain, was another hit and was topping the charts everywhere. The following year, in 1971, Tom Fogarty publicly announced he was permanently leaving the group. Tom was never replaced and the band became a trio and recorded their final album in '72, Mardi Gras. The Rolling Stones stated it was the worst album they have ever heard from a major rock band. After their 20-date US tour, the group had officially split on October 26, 1972. The group had never played together again. Selling millions of albums and writing songs of war and peace and everything else that goes along with rock and roll, Creedence Clearwater Revival have come a long way. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in '93, the boys of swampy southern rock have shaped a generation of what it means to be rock and roll legends.